And our readings will now be given by Florence from Georgia.
I will read from the Bible. Matthew. I say unto you, love your enemies, bless them that curse you, do good to them that hate you, and pray for them which despitefully use you and persecute you, that ye may be the children of your Father which is in heaven. Psalms. Search me, O God, and know my heart. Try me, and know my thoughts, and see if there be any wicked way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting. Genesis. And Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing wherewith his father blessed him. And Esau said in his heart, the days of mourning for my father are at hand. Then will I slay my brother Jacob. And Isaac sent away Jacob, and he went to Padan Aram unto Laban. Then went Esau unto Ishmael. And Jacob sent messengers before him to Esau his brother unto the land of Seir, the country of Edom. And the messengers returned to Jacob, saying, we came to thy brother Esau, and also he cometh to meet thee, and 400 men with him. Then Jacob was greatly afraid and distressed. And Jacob was left alone, and there wrestled a man with him until the breaking of the day. When he saw that he prevailed not against him, he touched the hollow of his thigh, and the hollow of Jacob's thigh was out of joint as he wrestled with him. And he said, let me go, for the day breaketh. And he said, I will not let thee go, except thou bless me. And he said unto him, what is thy name? And he said, Jacob. And he said, thy name shall be called no more Jacob, but Israel. For as a prince hast thou power with God and with men, and hast prevailed. And Jacob asked him and said, tell me, I pray thee, thy name. And he said, wherefore is it that thou dost ask after my name? And he blessed him there. And Jacob called the name of the place Peniel, for I have seen God face to face, and my life is preserved. And Jacob lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, Esau came, and with him 400 men. And he divided the children unto Leah and unto Rachel, and unto the 2 handmaids. And he passed over before them, and bowed himself to the ground 7 times, until he came near to his brother. And Esau ran to meet him, and he embraced him, and fell on his neck, and kissed him, and they wept. And he lifted up his eyes, and saw the women and the children, and said, who are those with thee? And he said, the children which God had graciously given thy servant. And he said, what meanest thou by all this drove which I met? And he said, these are to find grace in the sight of my Lord. And Esau said, I have enough, my brother. Keep that thou hast unto thyself. And Jacob said, nay, I pray thee, if now I have found grace in thy sight, then receive my present at my hand. For therefore I have seen thy face, as though I had seen the face of God, and thou wast pleased with me. Matthew. Then spake Jesus to the multitude and to his disciples, saying, woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! For ye shut up the kingdom of heaven against men. For ye neither go in yourselves, neither suffer ye them that are entering to go in. Luke. And the whole multitude of them arose and led him unto Pilate. Pilate, therefore, willing to release Jesus, spake again to them. But they cried, saying, Crucify him, crucify him. And Pilate gave sentence that it should be as they required. And when they were come to the place which is called Calvary, there they crucified him. And the malefactors, one on the right hand and the other on the left. Then said Jesus, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. I will now read correlative passages from Science and Health, The Key to the Scriptures, and prose works by Mary Baker Eddy. Love your enemies, or you will not lose them. And if you love them, you will help to reform them. Who is thine enemy that thou shouldest love him? Is it a creature or a thing outside thine own creation? Can you see an enemy except you first formulate this enemy and then look upon the object of your own conception? What is it that harms you? Can height or depth or any other creature separate you from the love that is omnipresent good, that blesses infinitely one and all? Simply count your enemy to be that which defiles, defaces, and dethrones the image that you should reflect. Whatever purifies, sanctifies, and consecrates human life is not an enemy, however much we suffer in the process. Love thine enemies is identical with thou hast no enemies. Wherein is this conclusion relative to those who have hated thee without a cause? Simply in that those unfortunate individuals are virtually thy best friends. Primarily and ultimately, they are doing thee good far beyond the present sense which thou canst entertain of good. Even in belief, you have but one, that not in reality. And this one enemy is yourself, your erroneous belief that you have enemies, that evil is real, that aught but good exists in science. If we have triumphed sufficiently over the errors of material sense to allow soul to hold the control, we shall loathe sin and rebuke it under every mask. Only in this way can we bless our enemies, though they may not so construe our words. We cannot choose for ourselves, but must work out our salvation in the way Jesus taught. In meekness and might, he was found preaching the gospel to the poor. Pride and fear are unfit to bear the standard of truth, and God will never place it in such hands. Any human error is its own enemy and works against itself. It does nothing in the right direction and much in the wrong. If so-called mind is cherishing evil passions and malicious purposes, it is not a healer, but it engenders disease and death. We must love our enemies and continue to do so unto the end. By the love of God, we can cancel error in our own hearts and blot it out of others. Sooner or later, the eyes of sinful mortals must be opened to see every error they possess and the way out of it, and they will flee as a bird to your mountain, away from the enemy of sinning sense, stubborn will, and every imperfection in the land of Sodom, and find refuge in truth and love. The Christian Scientist cherishes no resentment. He knows that would harm him more than all the malice of his foes. Brethren, even as Jesus forgave, forgive thou. I say it with joy. No person can commit an offense against me that I cannot forgive. We have no enemies. Whatever envy, hatred, revenge, the most remorseless motives that govern mortal mind, whatever these try to do shall work together for good to them that love God. Why? Because he has called his own, armed them, equipped them, and furnished them defenses impregnable. Their God will not let them be lost, and if they fall, they shall rise again, stronger than before the stumble. The good cannot lose their God, their help in times of trouble. If they mistake the divine command, they will recover it, countermand their order, retrace their steps, and reinstate his orders, more assured to press on safely. The best lesson of their lives is gained by crossing swords with temptation, with fear, and the besetments of evil, insomuch as they thereby have tried their strength and proven it, insomuch as they have found their strength made perfect in weakness, and their fear is self-immolated. This destruction is a moral chemicalization wherein all things pass away and all things become new. The worldly or material tendencies of human affections and pursuits are thus annihilated, and this is the advent of spiritualization. Heaven comes down to earth, and mortals learn at last the lesson, I have no enemies. My deepest desires and daily labors go to prove that I love my enemies and would help all to gain the abiding consciousness of health, happiness, and heaven. I hate no one and love others more than they can love me. As I now understand Christian Science, I would as soon harm myself as another, since by breaking Christ's command, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself, I should lose my hope of heaven. Jesus beheld in science the perfect man, who appeared to him where sinning mortal man appears to mortals. In this perfect man, the Savior saw God's own likeness, and this correct view of man healed the sick. The last act of the tragedy on Calvary rent the veil of matter and unveiled love's great legacy to mortals. Love forgiving its enemies. This grand act crowned and still crowns Christianity. It manumates mortals. It translates love. It gives to suffering inspiration, to patience experience, to experience hope, to hope faith, to faith understanding, and to understanding love triumphant.